Okay, the video's rolling. How are you, Amy?
I'm doing great, Scott. How are you?
Excellent. Ready to rock and roll on another series of Akashic readings, past life, who you may be, what we need to know, where you've been. It's a fascinating journey, and thank you for joining us here on another stream.
Well, you're quite welcome. And hi, everybody. This is my first time back since my break.
Oh, you've been taking a little break then. Alrighty then.
Yes,
So I hopefully
since
I have
my
I'll have the information about your channel and whatnot in the video.
hmm
So a little change to how I've done it before. We did our little meditation prior to this, connecting you to Earth and Spirit in your Akashic records.
hmm
And hopefully this will bring it all in, just skip a little formalities. So,
no big deal.
so this is how we're gonna do it. All right. Let's like the other ones. I'm gonna sense how many lives you've had on Earth. Because if you try tapping into whenever, we might be going back 5 billion years or something, and may not be a reference. But so I always try to start with Earth years and go from there.
hmm
Male and female. Um, how many times you may have been, you know, a giver of light. Just many lives we've had. I'm sure we've experienced everything. Deaths, short lives, and everything like that. So,
Sorry, I forgot to grab something to write with and something to write on.
okay. Do you have it?
Yeah.
You know,
Dang it.
unless you want to take notes, but this will be recorded and sent to you. But if you have something paper, that'd be handy.
Yep, I've got something to write with.
Okay. Amy's soul.
Please excuse my face in the camera, everybody.
Ah, you're beautiful. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aw, thank you.
Aw. Okay. When did your earth soul begin? I'm seeing the number 19,800. And they're telling me some reason you still have some lessons to learn.
Oh,
Generally, that's
shoot.
a pretty old soul, but I have seen older. What I was getting. How many lives you've had? I'm getting approximately 160 on Earth. Very equal, male and female. It feels like split right down the middle. Pretty close. We'll go with 80-80. How many times have you been a seer? Okay, I'm hearing this has been a challenge for you. Um, many lives you were unsure about spirit knowledge, connecting with spirit, and you didn't trust the process. Um, it may have been your upbringing at times, or were afraid of what, like, voices in your head. So there's a minimal amount of spiritual connection. Um,
So this is the strongest connection I've ever had then.
um, you had stronger.
Oh,
You had
okay.
stronger, and I'm getting 3 times it was a male. One time is a female, but your other lives are the problem. Um, it's it feels like it has been upbringing a lot,
Mm,
where you've
yeah.
been. There's just been this problems. It just feels like many times you've wanted to be who you wanted to be, and you were shunned by outside sources. This is just what it feels like to me. Um,
Just like now. Yeah.
it feels like something coming back around. But these feel three male sources are very prevalent when you were. I want to say places, but I'm feeling like we'll get into this later.
Okay.
But there were, all right, I'm getting the reference. They're almost Nostradamus types.
Oh.
Very, very connected, very prophetic. And one feels like it was in England long ago. One feels like it was in like the Sumerian culture. Like we're talking India, Iraq, those areas.
Hmm.
And the other time, that one's kind of clouded. It feels like 4,000 years ago, but it's like between, it almost feels like maybe Saudi Arabia, kind of between Israel, like Jerusalem and Egypt. So it's like
Hmm.
a different time. It's a different era. So this is before Christ, and it was kind of like knowledge wasn't really. You're trying to reach the masses, kind of feeling of like prophetic things, but there was discord.
Hmm.
Kind of, I'm seeing fighting, non-believers, kind of like now with the American culture. You
Yeah.
have this one group and this group, and it feels like you're trying to bring it together, but you can't. It's almost like you
Yeah.
were, let's just per se, you were Joe Biden trying to bring people together, but you can't. And there's fighting in the middle. So
Oy.
it feels kind
Yeah.
of relevant to now. The female, I'm being told here, you were very loving, endearing. You had a lot of children. I'm seeing here. Um, I can't remember the country's name. This feels like a country between Middle Europe and Prussia feeling. I don't know what the country is, but it's, so let's say we see Italy and then we see the old,
That's what I was feeling. Yeah.
there's something, there's a country here. I don't know. I can't remember the name, like Yugoslavia or something in that area.
Yeah.
But you let a lot of, you taught your children very well. I mean, it feels very loving empathy. And this is, gosh, it's, it's almost like the start of a new civilization here. This is a, a long time ago too. Um, 5 or 6,000 years ago. This was a long time ago, but it feels very family oriented. You were in touch with angels. You were in touch with spirit. Um, very family oriented. It was a good time. Um, I'm not seeing like you were a scribe or you're writing down things, but you help people. You help people
Right.
um, be in touch with themselves instead of. It's not like you were a church leader or anything like that because technically there weren't churches back then. It feels
Yeah.
like more going door to door kind of feeling. It was just a small tight community. It was only maybe 10,000 people. It wasn't very big. It was like I sense there's like smaller societies back then. So let's
Yeah.
move on from there. But I'm sensing you were uh, 3 times you were a very powerful male psychic, very prophetic. Um, what else I need to go here? Got equal lives. How many? Okay, how many times were you connected to spirit and a loving type person? The
Like I
ones.
am now, you mean?
You're a little bit more than now. Um, I mean, there's a difference between being compassionate and having connection and feeling source than just being a regular mojo going through your life and, you know, not understanding, whether it be following a god or following a person rather than just being whole.
Well,
I'm
not
saying,
because I was thinking I have unconditional love for people. I love
current,
everybody.
yeah. So I feel like this every time I've done these, I always sense there's not a lot of lives being compassionate. Whether it's greed or just don't care or you know cheat or whatever the case be. Greed and everything. That number always seems to be low. And so out of the 160 lives I'm seeing here, I'm getting like 40 that you're connected intuitionally and having compassion for others. And I've never seen a high number in the ones I've done so far, and that feels about a standard. 1/4 of the time, a soul will be a compassionate spirit because it's like I'm getting here. It's like we need to learn the dark side of life to grow to be compassionate. It always feels like
Hmm.
okay. So now let's go to who's guiding you and your spirit guides. So, like I've said before, I only see 2 spirit guides that were given to you from the God source to control your soul forever, and guide, and which holds Akashic records. Okay, I'm seeing a male and female. So yeah, one of each. It's just the energy, right? It's not like they portray themselves as male and female. So you have a
Right.
dominant, stubborn source or whatever for male, and you have a loving source for female. So you're a mix, and that would make a lot of sense where you're even lives because you don't. Just like the God source is portrayed as a male as being that strong energy, but is actually a female. That kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, because God projects love, and generally, a mother of creation is love.
Right. Hmm.
So I'm seeing a male and female. Do you have any visions of a person, a look of a person more than the and another? because it kind of looks like they're like, do you prefer blonde people more than dark haired, or have role models? 'Cause I'm seeing they both have lighter hair, but they're kind of portraying me. So I believe the guides are portrayed as someone you feel connected to because they're just light energy and um, from source. So they're not
Mostly light-haired people is what I see.
okay. That's what I'm getting at. Who okay? Who else is around you?
I always get a lot of family around me to, protect me, like my grandma and my
Mhm.
grandpa
Well,
and my uncle.
there's a difference between energy of ancestors helping at times when it's needed, rather than who's actually guiding. You know,
Oh,
the dominant guides. So I think we were texting before or whatever about, was it grandma? It was something a grandma figure around, or was it grandpa? I can't remember.
grandma.
Yeah, I think it was grandma. So I don't sense her as guiding you. The energy's there at times when needed. It feels like the whole family, but there is a
Yeah.
female energy as a guide. Um, Never been living. So your male and female, I'm getting first. They're your Akashic guides. They make you who you are from your past lives. They don't really influence. They're your record holders, but they make you who you are in your census. But this female energy is also created from source, but she looks like a grandmother. They're showing me she looks like a grandmother. It's just portrayed. I think you feel comfortable with a grandmother figure because generally grannies are great. You know, they make you cookies and they squeeze your cheeks and make you all full up. You know,
Yeah.
so she's also been um, this energy has been with you for 15 years or so. They will jump in and out as you're needed throughout your life. So it feels like something happened that you needed this grandmother figure approximately 15 years ago.
What
If that
was 15 years ago?
it may be
Um,
something happened, something became worse with either health or life situations, but
oh,
this is the
15
grandmother
years.
type figure that's been with you since approximately then. It doesn't mean the exact date, but this is what I'm sensing, about 15 years.
Yeah, 15 years ago, things were kind of iffy around here, mentally and emotionally and financially, things were really tough for me, and I was trying to get on my feet.
Yeah.
Um,
It feels like this energy
so I
could
guess,
be giving you comfort and strength.
yeah.
But it's more of the security. It's not the one that would give you your intuitional hits. This is just the person or the energy that's giving you the hopeful strength that you need.
Hmm.
So the one that you're connecting with right now for intuition and hits is a male. This
Hmm.
is um
He's the one I see when I'm doing readings. I'll just turn to
mhm,
the side,
yeah,
and that he's the one I see when I hear stuff. He'll be there. I'll be like, okay, thank you.
yeah. So is this, have you gotten a vision of this male? Because I'm being shown a beard. You
Yes,
know,
he's the one in
almost
my head.
like almost like a Jesus or a Moses, because they all have beards.
Hmm. He's
I'm.
the one in my head when I do readings when I was live and I would get hits and
Hmm.
I would get the downloads and I would like be quiet for a few minutes. I would listen to what he would say and he'd be in my head and that's who I would see.
Hmm. You ever got a hit of a name that
No,
you
I haven't done his name yet.
know? Well, this he wants you to make more of a connection to him. You can give him a name, or you can assign a name. But I'm hearing Samuel. If you want, you can call him Samuel.
I just heard Matthew.
You can go with Matthew. If you feel Matthew, call him Matthew. It doesn't matter.
Samuel or Matthew. Matthew Samuel. Samuel Matthew. Who knows?
Either one.
Call them both.
But they're both ancient names, prophetic names. I'm not positive because it's kind of sketchy. I think he may have been alive well over 2,000 years ago and now is guiding. But he feels more like a spirit energy rather than because it feels so long ago. I'm not, like if it was your grandfather or grandmother guiding you, I would sense that energy
Right.
right away. And this is not a family member. It's kind of like assigned to your soul family. But he may have been alive over 2,500 years ago. This is long ago, but it's prophetic name. But the name doesn't matter. You can call him whatever you want. If you like Matthew, just call him Matthew. But like I said, he's got that look of like, Joseph, Jesus, or Moses, that kind of
Right.
look. So,
But he's
so
fair haired.
you can talk to him. That's who's guiding you. What I say. Okay, now we got that out of the way. Let's
Yeah.
see where you've been. Let's search the globe and see where you've been and what I sense here.
I know one of them is England.
Well,
I
we'll see
know
where I
that.
go, and then you can ask questions later. Right now, they're taking me to Tennessee.
Really?
Yeah, I'm taking you to Tennessee. There's,
Okay.
there's, they're showing me railroads. You were building railroads. You were a guy. You were a male. I'm seeing you building railroads, and you had an accident. This is probably why you have your arthritic issues right now. They're showing me you working the railroads, building the railroads, and there was an accident. And it feels like you were crushed. So I think this is why it's relating to why you're having your
Come
problems
on.
right now. Are you back? It looks like you're frozen. Can you hear me?
God.
Come back, feed.
There. Hello. I was like, where'd you go?
You're frozen on my feed. Did you hear what I was saying?
You said that's probably why I had plump and you just
Yeah.
stopped. All
Okay,
right,
you're
it's
back.
getting ready to rain here, so
Oh no,
yeah.
we don't want
Sorry,
that to
it's
happen.
getting ready to rain here, so
Hopefully this continues.
it's
Anyway, we'll just
yeah,
go with. So yeah, they were showing me you were building the railroad in Tennessee area, and you had a major accident while you were working on it, and it paralyzed you for life. That's what they're showing me. So this is something that came back from another life. and why you need to deal with it. It's like you may not have accepted your fate and brought it in misery instead of enjoying in life. It's like,
Right.
why me? Now, because then you became super poor and like no one could take care of you,
Um,
and you lived in misery. So it feels like you carried that through. So
well,
this is it feels like mid 1800s when they started building
yeah,
railroads and whatnot. So
but I
that's
am who I am. This is
right.
me. It has me, but I mean, I mean, I have cerebral palsy, but it doesn't have me.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate our past lives affect us. It's like I was watching Dolores Cannon, one of her videos, and she was getting someone in a past life, and she's had severe back issues, and that woman was seeing herself as a whale that got harpooned right through the back, and
Oh,
she brought that pain into her existing life, and that totally makes sense of whether we have scars or whatever from a past life because it's been affected. If you, so unfortunately, that's the way it kind of works. If that life you would have accepted your challenge, accepted your distance, or
those are
you
like,
would have grown. But when you stay in misery, that misery carries. You know what I mean?
well, I was miserable when I was younger, but now I'm not. I've accepted it now.
Yeah,
So I don't think it'll carry on.
that's a
So,
great process. It's a great process. I mean, we can't do anything in our process unless we get a miracle or doctors fix us, whatever. So as an eternal soul, we just got to move on and stay in love as best as we can.
well, that's one thing I don't have to carry on.
Yeah, if you figure it out, you can release it all. Because being a loving spirit and just it can release, and I accept my challenge, that kind of thing. Even though we're all you know unfortunate that you have to go through this, but
It is what it is.
let's go with that. Okay.
Well, it is. It is
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah. Oh gosh, we're only at 28 minutes. I thought it would be longer. I was like, do we want to go too long? Okay. Plenty of time.
Oh,
Okay. Okay. Your wish is good to go. We're going to England here. Oh, stop it, rain.
ha! I told you.
Okay. You got stop for a bit. Okay, I'm going to
Tell me to stop it.
England here. I mean, your feed. It started blinking again. Okay, England. Um, I'm
Oh,
seeing northern. I'm seeing northern England. Another male. It looks like he may have been a. For some reason I'm being shown shoes. I think you were a cobbler this life. Um, this one we're not showing anything about the royals or anything like that. This one right here is you've had multiple lives in England. I'm being told five at least, but this one feels like you were a hardworking cobbler. They're just for some reason they're showing me shoes. Um, you
somebody's
actually
gonna make our food.
you actually specialized with handicapped people. It's like people would have short legs. You would manufacture shoes so they wouldn't walk funny.
Cool.
And there's also something about um, braces. So like you would make braces for people that needed. They showed me like metal braces, like manufacturing metal braces for like scoliosis type people that need to walk right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty neat. So yeah, you
Cool.
were kind
Well,
of an inventor, humanitarian, did what you can. This is maybe late 1600s, early 1700s. It feels like, but this
it kind
is
of went full circle.
this is no. They're showing me it's northern England area. Well, that's pretty cool. That's interesting.
It kind of went full circle there.
Yeah, I think you're here this way for a reason, some reason, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now I'm being shown you as a girl, and this is around London and with the royals. So I'm being shown a little dress and some kind of puffy thing, like dress wear around the neck.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's what they wore. Oh.
and I'm thinking you may have been a child of a female, um, either within the royal family or associated. But you had this relationship to the royal family way back. Um, I'm getting a reference around 1530. I'm not sure who was king there, but it says this is in the 1500s. Um, there's a lot of parties, extravagant parties with the royal families. So you were there, you were involved somehow. I'm not seeing a direct royal lineage, but maybe like a cousin or something like that, but not a royal title, but you were involved. You grew up part of the royal family in a sense. So after we're done, whatever, you can look back who was king and queen back in the 1500s. It feels like early 1500s. But there is a lineage there where you were attached, and it was a female. Um,
Hmm.
when you got older, I'm seeing
That probably explains it.
I'm seeing two children, two boys. When you got older, um, you probably shouldn't have, but I'm seeing you married your first cousin, but it
They
was
did that.
okay. Yeah, there was attachment
Yeah, they
within.
did that.
It feels like a setup kind of marriage.
And
But
they
there
did
was no
that too.
problem. There was no problems because of that with the kids or anything like that. But I'm seeing two boys. They give me the reference of kind of like William and um, Harry, the two boys, right? So
Hmm.
these two boys did go on to do good things within the royal family later, and unfortunately, you didn't get to see it except in spirit. They did their working within the royals and the family and governmental work later on. You passed on when they became prominent, in their 30s. So you
Yeah.
were in spirit when you seen this. You watched your children. Um, you
Back
weren't.
way back the go ahead. Go ahead.
Um, but yeah, it wasn't a very happy marriage though. Your husband back then was kind of a scoundrel. He
Oh, he
he
was a
messed,
jerk.
he messed around a lot. So basically, you can say you died of a broken heart almost. But
Oh,
you were a good person. I mean, like it was a good time, and you were proud of your family though, even though you didn't have the supporting husband on the side. You know, he was kind of a Boris Johnson feeling.
ew, ew.
Yeah, but it was a set
But
up marriage, that kind of feeling.
back
Um,
then they did that. They married their first cousins and their second cousins and arranged marriages. They did that.
yeah, well, that's what I was sensing, but I wasn't sensing bad things from it. It feels like it was supposed to happen. So it's kind of like later on you married into royalty of a sense. I don't. It's kind of weird.
It
I
just
just feel
sounds so much
cousin.
like,
It feels like cousin to the royals married each other feeling. So
well,
so
minus the
it feels like
cousin
they just
thing.
kept everything together instead of going out for lineage. That's what I'm
Yeah,
seeing. And it's kind of weird.
minus the cousin to cousin thing. It sounds like Charles and Diana.
Yeah, could be. I don't know.
That's what it sounds like.
Crazy.
Minus the cousin thing because they weren't first cousins. They were like distant cousins.
Sure.
Very
Wish we could
distant. Like,
edit record. Well, that kind of. I was just looking if I could pause this at times, but I don't. I don't see a way to pause these.
you know,
Oh, okay. We'll move on from there.
I guess that explains my fascination with the royal family.
Yeah, I think you were a child within long ago. Um, but yeah, you were part of it. Part of it. So I think that's your fascination because you grew up in it. You were a child within it. All the glamour and yeah, you've seen it all. That's what I'm sensing. I'm kind of seeing multiple areas and I'm trying to figure out where to go.
Pick your time.
Um, um, some reason I'm going to southern Africa.
Hmm,
Um,
wow.
this is a long time ago. Long time ago. There's some kind of okay. I'm seeing like extraterrestrial gods, but you were helping them mine certain minerals in southern Africa. It's not South Africa. It's up a little ways. Whatever country is northwest of there. But there's a lot of
Okay.
mining going on for some reason. That you were because I'm being shown you were a man. And you were using like a pick and um, but these but it wasn't gold. It looks like some kind of white substance, like I want to say like tritium or something like that. But they needed that. But you were helping out these kind of like slave type people, but they were not of this world. This is weird. Um,
Can you see
God,
what they look like?
there's some kind of hat. So I'm showing like these weird tall hats. I don't know why. Um, they got these long fingers There's only 4 fingers. They got long fingers, mostly robes. If you look close, I think they're reptilian. I see these
Uh,
slit I see these slit eyes. I think they were the clothing was to cover up, and they got these thin. I mean, showing these thin faces, so they kind of look
reptilian.
human, but the eyes were a dead giveaway. So they were like mining this white type substance to take back to their planet, and this is before your Earth years. Actually, I don't know why they're telling me this, but maybe it's reference to extraterrestrial life or something. But
So I wasn't on Earth for this.
yes, you actually were on Earth for this.
Oh, I
I don't know why
was.
they're giving reference. This is this. Let
Oh,
me see. Is this before? Oh, okay. Yeah, this is Earth life. My bad. I was thinking of the reptilians here, but no, this is like 13,000 years ago, something like that.
that's still a long time ago.
Yeah, this is a long time ago. But yeah, this kind of weird. Like I said, I don't know what reference this means, but I think it's just a life experience of maybe having, slave labor or something, being worked hard, but there was the extraterrestrial experience there as like a leader controlling a bunch of people, but they were somehow helping mine some kind of. It looks white. It doesn't look like gold, but it's like some kind of white substance they wanted to take back to their planet for some reason. Um,
Wow.
it feels like an energy substance. Where was this planet at? Okay, they're showing me like 2 o'clock where I think Pleiades is, but it's past Pleiades. Um, it's pretty close in sense of the universe, like 2 million miles or whatever. It feels greenish, not like Earth,
Not like,
not really like Earth, but it looks greenish. There's been told there's more nitrogen in the
oh,
atmosphere, which is kind of
not good
difficult.
for us.
No, it's not. They wanted to. They were using this substance to try to re- bring the planet back to life somehow. To because the planet got saturated with nitrogen. What I'm seeing and hearing, which made it difficult to breathe. So I'm being seen people or the reptilians or whoever was living there with like breathing apparatuses. So they're trying to. They thought they could use this substance to regenerate the planet because everything was kind of dying,
Oh, oh,
and it did help. And it did help for a while, but it feels like they ran out.
oh, so
They
they
couldn't find
died.
they couldn't find any more, so they had to find a different planet.
Oh no.
But it feels like that planet will eventually, being dormant for so long, will readjust, but they did it to themselves. Kind of like here. If you don't do things
Hmm.
right, you'll kill the planet. So that's, yeah. But it feels like it's going to regenerate itself eventually, but it's a long time away. But yeah, it feels like they were a dominant type reptilian species. There's a few others. Um, it's hard to see every one there. I mean, they're showing me different types and not really being able to describe. Um,
Yeah.
it's kind of like grays, but not grays. But then they got bluish color. There's so many. But
It's
there,
cool.
yeah, there was quite a few. But it feels like it was mainly a reptilian type planet.
Well,
Um,
apparently the extraterrestrials like me because they're following me around.
Accept the energy. Everything's good now.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that's a sense of that you only accept, loving energy rather than the negative ones.
Right.
Because you had a bad experience with those. Because they made you do stuff. They made you work hard and mine for them.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I think you were there when the pyramids were built, but I'm seeing you as a slave, actually. No one impressive. So another slave life. Jesus, you've been beat up. So I'm seeing you like the workers of the pharaoh pushing you, make stomping your feet to make the brick and mortar or whatever. So yeah, you feels like you were one of the workers. So you got to see the bad side of the Egyptian time for it. So unfortunately, you've been through a lot and a lot of slave labor. Unfortunately, been beat up a
Well,
little
this life is just another one of those, I would call it a slave life.
bit. Unfortunately, um, you had a lot of respect though. You worked very hard what they demanded of, but you had a lot of respect for some people. Um, there was a queen you looked up to. She was very kind to you, but the orders of the pharaoh's workers or whatever you want to call them. There was a queen.
Nefertiti just popped in my head. I don't know
It
why.
feels like a Nefertiti type of era. Yeah, I mean, there's been many, but I was sensing more of that energy too. Um, she actually gave you inspiration and compassion. So maybe that time frame. I'm not sure, but this is when they were built, so I don't know if Nefertiti was there when, but I guess you'd have to kind of Google when they were merely built. And so, who was that? Anekton or who? No, trying to remember the pharaoh who may have built them at that time frame.
Oh, the name is right on the tip of my
Yeah,
tongue.
I remember that too. I try to remember as much as I can, but I'm seeing them being built, and like all the slaves out there,
Hmm.
the mud and straw or whatever, and making all helping with the mortar and stuff of things being built. Besides the pyramids, I mean, there was tombs and everything else being built too,
The
But
tombs
there,
of the pharaohs. Yeah.
yeah, there was a lot of slave labor involved there. I'm saying, so
Hmm.
let's get out of there.
Yeah, that
They're
explains
showing me
Egypt.
somewhere now. They're showing me somewhere in China. I haven't seen one there yet. Um,
Huh.
this is the first life I've gotten. in China. You've been around the block, it looks like. Um,
Well, good.
um, where is this? It feels centralized. Not over by Hong Kong and Japan, that area towards the east. It feels more centralized.
Central China.
Um, what's that?
Central China.
Yeah, it feels central. Um,
I just heard in my head that I was around there around the time of the Great Wall being built.
where was that over? I can't remember. I don't even know where that is located. Um, where were you at?
I can't remember which emperor ordered that or wanted that to be or ordered that to be built, but that's what popped in my head when you said China.
Hmm. Well, I'm getting more of a sense of a military type person. Um, who was that evil China guy from way back? Um,
Oh, oh shoot.
I can't remember his name.
That made
Uh,
the terracotta soldiers.
I don't think it was that time frame, but it feels like something like that. The Genghis Khan, is that who, was
That
he in
no, that's
China?
Mongols.
Mongol. Well, isn't that in the right area?
Or it could have been him.
I'm not
Yeah.
sensing it was him, but it feels something similar. Um, but I'm being shown you were like one of the warriors in the battles,
Well,
not
that's
the
kind of cool.
leader. But yeah, this is so yeah, Russia and China. So it feels like inside China from just a little bit. Um, this is in the I think 1200s. To me, at the Google, what happened in China, mid China in the 1200s. But this feels like a warrior type thing. Because they're showing me like the animal skins being worn and swords, and there was a lot of fighting.
Mm.
But it feels like you were a warrior then, a male. It just feels like
Well,
another.
yeah,
It feels like another
females
experience.
weren't allowed.
What's that?
Females weren't allowed to fight
Yeah, sure.
in wars
They
back
only
then.
they're only allowed to probably bear babies.
Yeah, they were allowed to like defend the home. So they were, taught to use weapons for that, but they were not allowed to fight in wars.
Yeah, that's what it feels like there. Um, what reference it is, I don't know. It could have been. You may have been. I think you were eventually died in battle. You know,
Makes
stabbed,
sense. I
stabbed
probably
through the.
haunted the place for a while because that's a violent death.
Yeah, feels like stabbed through the chest, or I mean the stomach area in battle there. Okay,
Next.
where else do we need to go? Have you ever been interested in the samurai in Japan?
Yes.
because they're showing me Japan and the like making of the samurai people or the sword and everything.
Hmm.
Um,
I'm always interested in the samurai and the making of the swords and
this
yeah.
is somewhere so like I don't know, weird. But before this in China, whatever, this feels like 1,000 or 1,100, and there's something to do with the swords, another warrior type life.
Well, geez.
I don't know. Seems they had a thing way back when for taking on swords and the traditions of samurai and whatnot.
Well,
Um,
true.
a lot of
Well, the
culture. There's also a lot of.
samurai were just go ahead.
I'm getting something about there's a lot of culture involved too,
Mhm.
traditions.
Yep.
Um, there is a respect for family and leaders, but it's a different type. It isn't all about fighting people. It's more about traditions.
Yeah.
Um,
You're
respect,
hitting. Yep. That's how the samurai were. They didn't want to fight unless they had to fight.
because that's what it feels more like. Leadership and traditions, and there's a use of flowers for some. I'm not sure what this means, but there's a tradition using flowers for the ones that died in battle. There's some kind of
Oh.
ceremony or wreath, but flowers and putting things in the water,
Hmm.
kind of like a send off.
Yep.
It feels like he learned a lot there. I mean, more about like I said, with traditions, family, respect, all kinds of good things there, but also the art, the art of the samurai. Weird.
Which is cool. I still know it. It's still in here.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's still in my head.
Okay. Um,
You're like, wow, how could you still know? Because all I had to do was watch a movie and I'd be like, I remember that. I know about that. Oh my God.
it is weird how you can connect and how you're
Yeah.
guided to watch something and it fascinates you because you know about it, right?
Hmm. I didn't have to read about it. I just already knew.
Cool.
It's already in here.
To, to me, it feels like you're connected more so with the Palladians because I don't think you definitely didn't want to be involved with the negative extraterrestrial beings because I think I'm seeing more Palladian energy.
They were the positive ones. Yeah.
Yeah, mostly, yeah. Um, feels feels like you were helping something about creating hydropower. I think you were like a scientist or a worker trying to help way back when, because it's showing me water and something about hydropower. They they were trying to create a different, like here, different sources of. It kind of feels like that's where hydropower came from. The idea using water to create energy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling Pleiades energy and Pleiadians. Loving people, creative, all about senses of expansion, make things better. But yeah, there's something about hydropower for some reason they're showing me. Like either may have helped create it or was one of the workers putting things together, figuring it out. Hmm. Interesting. Okay. I'm not sure what this means. I'm kind of getting the reference of the Lord of the Rings, and there's something about a ring, and I'm not sure where I'm going here yet because I'm getting the reference of one ring. One ring rules it all, or something like that. Where, what does this mean? Where is it at?
Are you saying I was a hobbit?
No, because that's a
I'm
mythical story,
kidding.
but for some reason,
I was kidding. Sorry.
I know. But they're showing. This is kind of difficult to get into. I don't know why yet. But there's a reference to a ring or a. I gotta figure out where this is at yet. What's a reference to the ring? I think there's a planet or a galaxy that shows a ring.
It has a ring around it.
No, it shows like a dimension or almost like a Stargate, but there's a ring. It's like if you look up in the stars at night, it would show a ring. And it actually hasn't been spotted yet. You see the Big Dipper and other things, but
Uh-huh.
it's like
Hmm.
this is. It's almost like that. It's something that wants to be told, but they're hiding this information.
But I knew about it.
Yes, I don't know if it's
Wow.
dimensional or a galaxy that we don't know or seen yet, but the clue is the ring. And I think it has to do with the those stones in England. Um,
Stonehenge.
Stonehenge, yeah. Because I'm seeing like From Stonehenge, I'm seeing like a beam that goes out, and there's a ring, and it's like there's like a teleportation or something like that to this other galaxy through this ring, but it's connected to Stonehenge. And the reason why it was there,
Oh,
but you know about this.
maybe it's still in here somewhere.
When was it? That's all they're going to tell me. There's something connected with Stonehenge. I'm seeing like a funnel of ray or something, and it goes up to a ring or an entry point to another galaxy or another dimension or
Wow.
something. This
Maybe
may be
that's
why, this may be why they consider that Stonehenge might be a portal, or a guide to another galaxy or there from extraterrestrials or something. But I haven't seen this and got this before. And
wow.
I think that's why they were trying to be so quiet about it. But I was getting that
Oops.
sense of that area, with England, but all I was getting was ring. But then it opened up a little more and has something to do with, there's been all these stories that Stonehenge could be a airport or a dimensional port or whatever.
Yeah.
But way back when, that was some kind of highway or guide, but there's like this energy portal going out and it creates a ring at the right time. It opens in the full moon. I think it opens in the full moon. The light would be coming down and it kind of activates Stonehenge.
Well, good thing people can't stand by it anymore.
it, it feels like
Um,
it's still active.
uh, have you heard of the TV show Stargate SG-1 and Stargate
No,
Atlantis?
mm-mm. No,
You haven't?
no.
You need to watch it. Um, the first time I heard of it, I just watched it. Well, first time was because it had Richard Dean Anderson in it. Love Richard Dean Anderson, MacGyver. Um, but it's about the military has a Stargate that goes to different planets,
Oh, I mean, I've seen the
is what
movie
it's about.
Stargate. I mean,
But
with
it's
Richard or what's his name?
James Spader and
Yeah, James
James
Spader. One
Spader
of my favorite
and
movies. Yeah, but I've seen
they
that.
made
But
it in they made it into a TV show that lasted 10 years.
oh,
11 if you count the movies.
oh, cool. Yeah, that was one of my
Yeah.
favorite movies. Cool concept.
Yeah,
But that's
they did a
but,
TV show.
but what I'm told is that's not how it actually works.
Well, I know, but it's still
It's a
kind
fascinating
of cool.
concept.
Yeah. And I dream about Stargates.
Yeah, it's all if we could use our mind completely, and be in unconditional love, using the earth, you can create your portal. It's all
Yeah.
it's all an area. It's how you it's how our extraterrestrial friends use the UFOs. Is through energetic portals. But it's creating that space in their mind. We're just not powerful enough to use them without assistance.
Well, I dream about them all the time. I dream that they're open.
They can be opened if we're good enough.
I dream that they're open. I just haven't been, you know, I haven't been not scared enough to walk through one yet.
That's kind of weird. Maybe astral travel to different portals or something.
I don't know, but I see them.
Yeah.
So
From
it's,
what I sense here, it can only be in portals are only in certain areas. You know, it's not like you can create one anywhere. You need to be in a more energetic space on the planet. It's like you can't walk out in your backyard and go poof with a portal. It's got to be somewhere else. Like,
well, like you said, maybe I astro traveled and there it was.
mm-hmm, very
But
cool.
I dream about them. It's just, it doesn't happen all the time, but I do dream about them. And when I see them, they're open.
It's fascinating.
So
So I
I'm
think
like,
that must be the reference I'm getting about you knowing about these portals from way back when, during the use
right.
of the use of Stonehenge. Crazy.
It's like, boy, I guess I was on, they honored me, I guess, by giving me the privilege, I guess.
Definitely. 'Cause, yeah, I only sense them. I've never had any dreams like that. Nuts.
I'm lucky.
Do you have any questions? I think I'm done sensing where I need to go. Any other
Um,
dreams or things you've been associated with that you're fascinated about that I can try to tap
well, I
into?
was wondering, can you sense, um, it's like, is like the, like I said before, I'm fascinated with like cats of all kinds.
Cats.
Cats. I mean, I love all animals. I mean, all animals love me, but it's like I'm drawn to cats most of all. Just cats.
Okay.
Cats.
I'm not getting your an actual cat. Any lives inside of a cat, your soul of. I mentioned that before, just jokingly. Maybe you were a Lyran, extraterrestrial. You know, because they look like cats or lions. You know, that figure. And that's where I think that's from. The Lyran, the cat like extraterrestrial beings. I think that's where it comes from. Um, Also, cats are
Hmm.
more psychic. You like cats because they're more psychic. They're one of the more psychic animals.
Ah.
Um, like what I sense is dogs are kind of like curious psychics, but cats
Mhm.
are psychics. What I'm hearing here, it's like a dog be
Yeah.
like, "What is that? Look over here," you
Huh?
know. But a cat would be like, "What you doing?"
Oh, hi.
Yeah. So I think
Yeah, I've
I'm not
had
seeing
cats that
you
do
as a
that.
yeah.
When
I'm
I,
not seeing
because
your
the
soul
house that
going. So I think you were
oh,
part of
hello,
the
the house that I live in, yeah, the house I live in now is haunted, and the cats that we've had three cats in this house, and they all would just look, and there would be nothing there.
hmm yeah,
So,
like like my house. I mean, I could tell the cat would be curious, just look, but the dog would be like, "What's going on?" But then ignore it. But the cat would focus, you know.
yeah,
So I think what I sense is like cats are half in and half out. You know, it's like I think they're psychic. Dogs
yeah,
are more
they are.
dogs feel more curious, but they can sense. You know, they can sense energies. They can sense who's good and bad. You know, and cats will do their own
Yeah,
thing. Cats are different, but so I think it has more of a Lyran
You're like,
energy.
yo, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah. They'll see something, go, yo, dude, what you doing there? What you doing in
pretty
my
much.
house?
Pretty much.
And
Any other?
another one,
Any other?
pretty much. I was curious she didn't touch on this, but I've always been um um fascinated or curious about and fascinated with like Pompeii, like I was there, and um
Okay.
and the Titanic, like I
Titanic.
was there, because I've
Okay.
had dreams of the Titanic.
Okay. Pompeii. You're talking about the volcano explosion feeling, or the
Vesuvius.
which way do you say
Boop.
think of Pompeii?
Yeah,
And where is Pompeii? Do you,
where Vesuvius erupt. Um, 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 it was during the Greece,
is it Greece? Okay.
area of Greece.
Um, you were there after. It feels like you were rebuilding after it happened. I don't sense you being there as you may have seen it happen in spirit, the explosion and it going off, but it feels like you came down after everything was calmed and then rebuild and that area.
Well, yeah, Pompeii was basically buried, and then they uncovered it, as you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Okay, I don't remember
But
the history. I've heard of it, but I don't remember the history. But the I sense you were there in that area. But as far as the actual destruction and the going off, it feels like you were in spirit when you seen it happen. Because at that time, I think you were soul familied into that area.
um,
But I don't see the destruction of you being there when it went off.
okay,
But
because
the soul
yeah,
family is there. You are connected, but I'm not seeing you see it happen. I think you were rebuilding that area after it went off. That's what I'm saying.
so I'm base I'm getting when you said that I'm getting like I was a ancestor of one of the people who died or one of the people who lived, because there were people who survived
Mm-hmm.
the not very many, but there were people who survived the volcano erupting and all that. There were some.
I mean, some of your soul family did perish. I'm not saying survivors did perish, but your soul before I'm getting was there prior, left, and then the explosion happened, and then you came
Hmm.
back down to help rebuild.
Okay. So I was living in Pompeii before and then left.
Yes, you passed on,
Ah,
then it happened. So it feels like your some of your soul family may have perished. So like you're maybe guiding them or whatever, and you've seen it happen in spirit. So then after all effects, it feels like you reincarnated to rebuild.
oh, okay. So that's why I was so drawn to it and so
That's what it
affected
feels
by
like to
it.
me. Because I'm asking and seeing if you were hurt or survived when this exploded, and I'm not seeing it. So, but I think you've been affected by it in spirit because your soul family were affected, and you may have even received them after they perished, as family kind of feeling. It's like they
Oh,
perished
okay.
in heaven. You receive these people, these souls
Hmm.
into the light, that kind of feeling. But as far as your body being tormented or escaping that tragedy, I'm getting a blank slate. So I don't think you were there when it happened. It feels like you were
Well,
in
that's a good
spirit.
thing.
Yeah.
I just
The
feel horrible for the people that had to go through that.
and yeah, usually it's quick unless you're trying to escape and run, and then something else hits you. But yeah, it's horrifying. Okay, the Titanic.
But there were people who did survive. Not very
Mhm.
few, not very many, but there were people that did survive
Yeah.
because there were people that actually said what happened. So,
Okay. You.
and then Titanic,
Same,
because
it's
I've
the
actually
same.
had dreams.
I'm getting the same thing about the Titanic. You had soul family on the Titanic, but you were not there. I think you've seen them in spirit also. I'm get I'm seeing many things you've seen and were attached to in spirit rather than being there. I think you had soul family that were on the Titanic that affected you.
Ah,
Um, I'm getting many. You you seen this happen in spirit. You're connected to these souls, and you after they perished, you help them, into the light.
hmm.
There's been many instances like this that you have memories of, but you were actually in spirit. I'm not
Like Elizabeth
seeing
Short.
who.
Elizabeth Short.
Oh yes, the Black Dahlia woman.
Hmm.
Yeah, that too. I mean, like all these things. And I think we were texting about that a long time
Hmm.
ago, and I was kind of seeing the same thing. I'm like, I don't think you were there, or and I'm getting the same thing here. Is that many things have affected you in spirit and seen them as a spirit entity. It's kind of like part of your learning and growth process. What's spirit and what is actual?
And
There's a little bit of a manifestation going on, like wanting or spirit illusion. So it's difficult. I'm getting here. It's difficult for
mm,
you to realize what's actual and what's spirit, because I think you spent
well, then,
a lot of time learning in spirit and watching and helping than actually getting affected by in life.
oh, okay. Then that probably also explains the victims of the uh Jack the Ripper then, because
Jack the Ripper, Jack the
I'm
Ripper, and that was in England too, right?
mm-hmm.
Um,
It's like I'm drawn to those women.
Jack the
It's
Ripper.
like
Do you remember when that was? The time frame you looked it up. Was that 1800s
yes,
or
like
1900s
1700s.
or 17 something?
No, it was like 1900s, I think.
1900s.
1900s.
Wow. Do you remember how many victims?
Five,
That's it, just five.
just five.
I think there was more, but
Well, five that they knew of.
mm, Jack the Ripper. Why Jack the Ripper? Well, immediately when you mentioned Jack the Ripper, I was getting victim. But they're not telling me for sure if you were one of the victims or a family member of the victim, of one of the victims. But that feels like something that was on Earth. Like you knew of it, or you're a family member, or associated with one of the victims very closely. I think this is why you were attached to this one. And you are very attached to England.
Hmm.
But they're not telling me for sure if you were an actual victim. But the first word I heard when you mentioned was victim. To me, it feels like you were separated from the actual victim. I don't think you felt it and was one of them. It may have been a family member.
Wow. Because of course, he went after ladies of the night.
Right.
That's what they called them back then.
Feels like you were a brother of one of the victims.
Goodness.
You may have wanted justice to try to figure out kind of feeling.
Because
Is
I'm still
horrifying.
trying to figure out who he is.
Yeah, that's a mystery. I think Andrea and I did a reading on him, and I think we were getting it was a police officer, maybe. If I'm thinking the right case, I have to look it up again, but I think we were getting it was a police officer, unless I'm thinking a different case. But it's been a long time. We've done a lot of readings,
Yeah. But yeah, I'm still trying to figure out who he is.
so a lot of people probably. Or no, I think it wasn't Jack the Ripper. It was a case out in San Francisco. Who was that? I think it
There's a
was
lot of,
California. There was another mass murderer guy that no one ever figured out. Was it the guy that wrote the cryptic notes? Um,
oh, oh, yeah, that dude.
but
They never found
he
him.
also killed people, but left them notes.
Yeah, that dude. He's
I
never
can't remember
been
who.
found.
I think we were getting. He was a police officer. I think that was the
Yeah,
one. Jack the
he's
Ripper.
got to be dead by now.
Yeah, but Jack the Ripper. I think we were getting. He was more of a doctor. I think.
Yeah, he was a doctor. There was no
Yeah.
way around it. He was a doctor. They were saying for a while he was a member of the royal family, and I'm like,
Okay.
no, no,
No.
no. He was a doctor.
Okay.
Um,
Anything? Any
yeah,
other lives or fascinations you want me to check into?
well, well, everybody's fascinated. Everybody's fascinated with this one. Um, um, of course, everybody's fascinated with Marilyn Monroe,
Mm-hmm.
but um, from the second I saw her when I was a little kid, it's like I was like, her.
So she was alive,
No, I was born in 72, 10 years after she died.
or 10 years after. Okay. I don't remember the dates. Okay. So you were born in 72. This was after. Okay. Was it 62 or so when she passed?
1964.
Okay. Why? Again, you were in spirit.
Uh,
10 years prior, you would still be in heaven's realm, preparing to come back. So you were like the Black Dahlia. It feels like you were in spirit taking it on,
Ugh.
like
So
like
I was like their guardians or whatever, or
kind of.
maybe I was the angel of death.
No, it feels like a angel protector of women kind of feeling.
Oh, oh.
It's like you
Well,
were.
I wasn't
It feels, it feels like you were learning through the process of women that went through horrible things.
I
But you
wasn't
were,
doing my job very well.
well, it's more of a learning process than you weren't powerful enough to affect any outcome like a birth angel or a guardian angel. I'm getting more of a watcher feeling
Oh,
because to me it feels like you spent a lot of time in spirit before coming back now in 72. So it may have almost been 100 years. I think I was texting you before about that. It was a long time. So like I was sensing that railroad thing, that getting crushed there, it may have been, you may have had another short life after that, but it was brief. Um,
and then I just said, forget it.
it
I'm done.
feels like, I don't think, yeah, it wasn't 100 years. It was a decent amount of time. But after the getting crushed there, you were a child, and it feels like you died of a disease or something pretty quick, or some kind of failures. And it's almost like your soul's like, I had enough. I want to be inspired for a while and not come back. I want to do some learning. So it feels like you took a lot of tragedies on from spirit, watching and learning. Because a lot of these things you're talking about, may happen close together. So that'd be pretty fascinating to have a lot of quick lives, you know, to be close to um, Marilyn Monroe or when the Black Dahlia happened and these other things.
Hmm.
And I just don't see that happening. That kind of turnaround quick to be in another life, just to experience that and to grow up, 30 years, whatever, to experience it, or even a 20-year-old. It feels
Hmm.
like you whole took on a lot of things in spirit to learn, and you actually felt it.
Ooh,
And I think it feels like your soul helped these people. Um, Not Marilyn. I don't think she had her own soul family, but some others you helped them cross because they were
like,
part of
a li-
because they were part of your soul family. But like
right,
Marilyn Monroe
like,
wasn't. It was more of an observer watcher with Marilyn uh, and others like the Titanic or other places. But I'm sensing you've been a soul watcher, and you learn from these experiences by, instead of doing your own thing and learning and having you would watch and be part of other souls on
well,
Earth
that's a good
that
thing, right?
experience tragedy. Yeah, it's a learning experience, but it can also take a little pain too. You know, when you experience tragedy.
Yeah, but in
Mm,
this life, and then I decided to come down into this life, and then, oh my God, the pain and torment.
yeah, so I think with your own physical lives in torment and also in spirit seeing torment, it feels like you got a double whammy.
Yeah, but
So
I've
You,
I've been able to make it,
yeah,
whereas
good thing.
other people have told me I wouldn't have been able to make it.
Well, that's a
So
blessing. So it feels like this life, you know, take the lumps that you've been given, stay in love, connect with that male. Who do we decide for a name?
either Samuel or Matthew.
No, you like Matthew. So do
Hmm.
more connecting with Matthew. You said you already kind of sensed him when you get your hits. Do more meditations with Matthew. Um, stay in love. Um, and do your very best. And then you can release this kind of energy and go back to a male seer or even better female seer or something next time around. But
Not true. I'm not that bad right now, but hey.
yeah, it's still difficult to not be, as an athlete or be able to be on your own and have a different type of life than the one you've been given right now.
Yeah, but when I get to
Right?
England, I'll be able to have my own life.
Well, let's hope so.
What do you
Manifest
mean
it.
you hope so?
The life is not, written in stone yet. Focus on it, manifest it. I seen it happening.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just
gonna
saying.
happen.
Hope so. Manifest it.
I'm
Use
gonna have my own apartment with a roommate.
get her done. It's all
It
right.
will eventually. I just don't know when my guides will want it to happen. I don't know.
Well, it's not actually a great time to be progressing there, with UK's economy's in shambles, rents soaring, and who knows where it is. So we want stability in the world before anything. It's probably not a great time.
No, well, we everybody I've talked to, predicted next year, and I even said next year when I thought about it. So,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
what it seems. It's a long ways
so
away
we'll
yet,
see.
like 11, 10 months or so. You're hoping, but the
Nine,
world
10 months now.
the economies need to get stabilized. Housing and everything needs to come down a little bit. Better policies. It's kind of like getting thrown into the wolves right now if you'd be moving.
Oh, Lordy, no way. But I
So
will
yeah,
be moving. It's just a question of when.
just impression away. Keep manifesting it. So we're gonna end this today. Thank you, Amy, for letting me get into your soul. It's been
You're
fun.
welcome. Thank
Get
you.
on with our day.
And did I
All right.
surprise you again?
Um, some things did, yes. The golden ring or whatever was fascinating. Another thing, they didn't expect that one. You were quiet on that. It was pretty fascinating. I think they just in these ratings just tell you where you need to go for the moment.
Yeah,
Like I said, when you have a couple hundred lives, you never know what you're gonna get.
this is true. I'm very appreciative. I was like, whoa.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
then everyone subscribe to Amy's Smiling Love and Light and hope to see some more videos.
Oh, definitely. Definitely, definitely. Thank you,
All right.
everybody, for coming.